Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Springfield at the corner of 6th and Lawrence in front of the old Franklin Life Building, now the Illinois State Police Headquarters. When this was built, this was one of the grandest private buildings in Springfield, maybe the grandest. And we get a chance today to take a look through this building and see what it looked like then and see what the new parts look like today. And Sergeant Terry Woods, having worked with the Illinois State Police in this building, somebody had to bone up on the history of this thing because you constantly get questions about it. And so it sort of fell to you to be the one that takes people through it. So thank you for doing that with us.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
You're standing right in front of the oldest part of the building. Tell us a little bit about this one.
This here is the original building, as we call it, the North Building. It's built in 1913 and occupied then. Franklin sold their building at 5th and Monroe and moved in at that time. It was originally constructed as a horseshoe. In 1921, they remodeled it and, added more office space and air conditioning at that same time. And then times really boomed. The economy was going great at that time for the insurance business. They needed extra space. So in '48, they built the South Tower here. And then had a small one-story connector there, right behind the Benjamin Franklin statue, which was actually added there to help balance out the two buildings because nothing above one story was there. And then in '52, another boom happened and needed more office space, so they added the extra stories there on top of the annex right behind Benjamin Franklin and tied everything together there. And then shortly thereafter, in the mid-'60s, another building on the opposite side of the North Building was constructed for additional office space.
We really can't mention the Franklin without talking about a Mr. Becker, who really took this company from what it was a small one building to this great expansion.
He was the spearhead behind the company.
Yeah, he was a remarkable person, a real civic leader as well.
Oh, yes.
And grew enormously wealthy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. During that time, they spared no expense for anything. They had wonderful looking offices, treated their employees really well.
Well, you know what, we're going to talk to an architect, or actually a fellow named Anthony Rubano, who works for the Illinois State Historic Preservation Agency. And he has some insights on the architectural facets of this building. So we're going to take a look at that, and then we'll join you a little later. You can take us through, okay? Thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, Anthony, George Helmley designed this, built it in 1913. What was he striving for, do you think?
Well, we don't have to think much. He tells us. They produced a little booklet that talks about the building, and he references very specifically some Greek temples, ancient Greek temples, the ruins of which were still standing and well known. And he was looking at one particular temple that had standing Corinthian columns, just sort of in a perimeter, and so he took inspiration from that to give to Franklin Life a building that had permanence and sort of an eternal appearance about it, made out of limestone, carved out of Indiana limestone. So it's very direct where the inspiration is coming from. It also fits very well into the neoclassical period that was popular at the time the building was built. In 1948, when the building to the south was constructed, that would have been pretty out of style in 1948, but Franklin Life wanted to have a more conservative architectural expression, and so even though this was in the post-war period, they still were using fully carved, elaborate limestone columns in the very correct Corinthian order. And even in their extension, this T-shaped part from 1952.
And that's in the middle there, behind the statue, right?
They used similar detailing, very elaborate, totally out of date from a stylistic standpoint in '52, but it was that expression of permanence that was so important to the company. It didn't matter to them if it was a little out of date. This was what they wanted to express themselves as to the public.
And what does the statue of Benjamin Franklin in the middle do for it?
Well, it gives it a focal point so that we see one building that was built as a single work, an addition or two added onto it. That Franklin statue allows the addition to not look like an afterthought, but look like an intended component of an overall campus.
Okay, so it ties it together.
Absolutely, visually.
Unity.
And then with that 4-column screen behind it, it really becomes then its own focal point for a courtyard in the center.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stan Workman, when you walk in off 6th Street into the oldest part of the building, this is what you're confronted with, and it's really would have been a grand, it still is a grand entrance.
Sure
but
is.
But in 1913, there probably wasn't a privately owned building with this kind of
not with this type
majestic
of
entrance.
architecture, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have an interesting story because you kind of came with the building. When the Illinois State Police bought the building, you kind of came with it, right?
Yeah, all
you and the marble.
Yep, me and my engineers, myself and my engineers were all hired by the state to continue to operate the building.
Yeah, that's interesting because you had a history with this building. You took care of it for a long time.
Yep, we have.
And
I got some engineers who've been here 32 years.
Yeah. You were actually taking care of the AC and the ventilation and stuff here since the 70s.
Yep.
So you know your way around.
Yes, been here a long time. Finally got hired in '92 by Franklin Life.
Is that right? Okay. As we look over your shoulder and above your head, we see what I called grandeur. It's marble from floor to ceiling.
It is. It's the marble came from Vermont, what I understand, talking to some of the old people that were in this building for many, many years. And it's pretty ornate, as you can very well tell in the paint and stuff, the ornate way it's painted and everything, and we're constantly touching that kind of stuff up.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So it does show its age sometimes.
It does, yeah. Well, I mean, we get little water leaks here and there, and we have to repair it and go. But as you can tell, just painting one little area of this ceiling is it takes quite a bit of talent to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. Let's move up the staircase here just a little. Of course, everything is marble. Everything you see here is marble, and bronze. I guess
Yep,
that's bronze.
Yep.
Your eyes instantly attracted to, of course, the bust of Ben Franklin, but behind that, that's a beautiful piece of art.
And yeah, that's the stained glass that was originally here in 1913 when the building was completed. And as you can see, it used to open out. Okay, I mean, you can see the handles on it, so it used to open out. In about I'm going to say late 20s, early 30s, they decided to close in that courtroom because originally this building was a horseshoe shape. And Franklin Life, once again, was expanding. I mean, the business was really booming, so they decided to build on and close the courtroom and add on another addition on the other side to have more office space. But regardless, that stained glass stuff is still there. Behind that stained glass stuff now is a mechanical room.
I see. So that used to be the outdoors, and that explains the window. It would let natural light in, and you could see the light coming in through the stained glass.
And they opened them up. And
Interesting. Now, this grand staircase goes up 3 floors.
3 floors.
Just the way you and I are looking
Right.
at it, with the banister on both sides going up, and marble all the way up.
Yep, marble all the way up.
What was going on floors 1, 2, and 3 at that time?
They were just their administrative offices and their secretaries. This building's kind of unique compared to any other office building because there's really not any area for cubicle space or anything like that, like a typical office now. They got actually individual offices, and these offices are relatively big offices.
Right.
And by today's standard, it's really not a super efficient building for an office building, but it is what it is because of its age.
Yeah.
And state police, internal investigations, and operations utilize this whole building for all the office space.
And then on the 4th floor, when you look at this oldest part of the building from 6th Street, you see it has 4th floors, but that 4th floor wasn't used for offices.
No, it was basically a storage area. There's a little small office area up there that they had, but the majority of that area was a mechanical area, storage area. But something I want to bring up, there's something weird about this building. I've never been able to figure it out. Up on the 4th floor in the storage area, there's like a stage built into that thing, and nobody's really been able to clarify why that stage area was built there. And I've asked many people, why is this raised up that far compared to the rest of the floor?
Yeah.
Nobody's really ever been able to tell me that.
Yeah, I'll be darned. Well, walk with me this way just for a moment. And this is just a nice touch that it shows you what this main level has. These beautiful leaded glass, I think they're leaded glass.
They are.
Go all the way around, and these probably at some point opened to allow some airflow to go
They
through.
did.
Now the hinges are still there, but they're not used for that anymore.
No.
But they're very decorative.
Yeah, they are. Some of them, in some of the offices that don't have the suspended ceilings, become more energy efficient, they dropped some of the ceilings in here. But some of the offices still have the original ceilings in them. They still work. I mean, they still open.
And we get a chance to see some of those original offices. And I'll tell you what, Mr. Becker and the other executives here, they had it pretty good, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah, I would say they did. I mean, it's a pretty nice office space. I mean, it's a really nice place now. I mean, it's people we bring into this building, they go, wow, I didn't know there was anything like this in Springfield.
Yeah. Well, Sergeant Terry, would you give tours to groups or interested people about this building? So you've become probably sort of been forced to learn about it, right?
A little bit. You can say that.
We were just talking to Stan about what a grand, what grand office space they built here, and there wasn't anything like this in private buildings in Springfield. Of course, the State House was here, and the court buildings were here, but then Franklin. Boy, I'll tell you what, they built a monument, didn't they?
They grew fast, and they love to show it. They love to show it.
Mr. Becker was the moving force at this time behind this, and we're standing in his office, which is in the original building on 6th Street, and it's remarkable, isn't it?
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. You can't go anywhere to see anything like this in the city, I don't think.
You know, it's so ironic, too, that, these police officers, these administrators, they were in the Armory building, which was a mess.
Very dank and drabby.
And talk about getting waking up and saying, where am I? I mean, this is fantastic. Yeah. What a great move for the state. I think the state must have gotten a tremendous bargain when they got this place.
I'm sure.
But we're looking at this oak paneling, which is was probably put in. Well, this may have been put in when the original building was built,
original, yes.
1913, and of course a fireplace that probably never saw a fire.
Right.
But
unfortunately,
it's beautiful. It is beautiful. Everything is just gorgeous.
To replace anything, it would be irreplaceable.
I don't think
we wouldn't be able to do that.
I just want to show one detail. Just for instance, if you never even look at these doors because they're closed most of the time, but look at the scroll work and the handiwork that went into the design of this door, for instance, right here, this big old oak door. It's just phenomenal. And if we look this way, we've seen this before in the windows here. They paid great attention to the windows, and where they're not stained glass, they have these medallions in them, or these shields. They're just tremendous. Yeah, this would have been Mr. Becker's.
This is Mr. Becker's.
He was the president.
Office.
He was the man who made it all come together. Right. But he didn't scrimp for his vice presidents either, did he?
The other executive offices are equally nice. That he treated them well.
It is different, you can tell, but it's top grade.
Right.
It's phenomenal. These are always interesting too. They really stressed their relationship with Ben Franklin.
Yes.
This is his grave site. This over here is Ben Franklin's birthplace. And if you look back here, you see there's his printing press on the right, and then on the left, his Poor Richard's Almanac, which of course he's famous for. This is
strong ties to Ben Franklin.
Yeah. Oh, and before we leave this room, one other thing. They found a good place for a mural of him, which was painted by a relative of one of the executives here. And it's nice work, very nice, a very nice local touch.
Exactly. Moving through another executive's office.
Terrific.
Into a remodeled portion of the old billiard room. If we move through this area, you can see some of the original paneling.
Oh, this was all one room.
This is all one room.
The billiard room.
Yes.
And so this was like the boys' club up here.
This is their little club.
And this phenomenal, I don't know what this is, walnut? I guess maybe this is the original oak. I'm not sure what this paneling is. It's gorgeous. So they dropped the ceiling, and this wood would have gone clear.
All the way through.
And actually, it is in there. It's just been covered up.
It's been covered up through different renovations.
Oh.
And in the 1921 renovation, they added the air conditioning unit for the building, and some of these vents here are the original vents for the AC unit.
And that was really a step ahead then.
That was.
Because big buildings weren't completely air conditioned at the time, were they?
Exactly.
In fact, I think the architect George Helmley is said to have said that this was the first building, entire building.
Exactly.
That was
Right.
air conditioned. Now, I
Right.
don't know if that's true or not, but.
Exactly. According to our reports, this is the first one, at least in Springfield, followed closely by the Orpheum Theater.
That
So
was air
they
conditioned.
were back to back getting the new air conditioning units in.
Oh, it's fabulous. Well, Terry, let's take a detour from the executive offices. This is what it was like if you were going from the second up to the
Right.
third floor where
Up to
those
the grand
offices are.
staircase.
And what I wanted to come here because there's a good example here of what the original
Right.
fixtures, light fixtures, would have looked
Exactly.
like.
Yeah. Yeah, this would have been throughout the complex.
It's fantastic. And then, of course, we saw the stained glass on the first floor.
Right.
But that's on each floor looking out
Exactly.
to the courtyard. In fact,
Yeah.
they're even bigger here.
Exactly, yeah. Still has the hardware on it where they could be open for air ventilation.
And let that natural light in. It's
Exactly.
gorgeous. Well, Anthony, in 1848, well, they call this the Black Hall.
In
This would have been,
1948.
thank you, 1948. When this was just built, this addition was built, this would have been one of the main entrances for the employees. And what a way to get to work, huh?
Spectacularly grand entrance. You know, I wouldn't mind coming into this every day for work.
Man.
But the marble, although it sort of looks black, is actually a spectacular multicolored marble with purples and reds and greens, veins of greens in it. And it establishes the color scheme for this incredible terrazzo floor that we're standing on also, where you've got creams and then, you know, large medallions encircled by this octagon of
course,
sort of
the
a maroon and
ever-present
purple.
Benjamin Franklin,
You got to
of
have
course.
Franklin on everything.
And
These
this is-
bronze medallions are set every so often into
Yeah.
the floor of this hallway. And of course, this focuses on this amazing relief here at the end, surrounded by glass mosaic. And I believe this is a cast stone material showing this sort of quintessential American family, of course, with their Franklin life policy in their hand, security for you, protection for yours. So presumably the son graduating from high school and the other children. So it's just sort of this familial, almost beatific portrayal of the family, all protected by this company.
And if we look up, I mean, talk about the artwork. They spared no expense because, what is this, plaster above us?
This would all be cast plaster, and it's sort of a coffered ceiling. We'd call it a coffered ceiling, but the way it's rendered, it's not a traditional placement of a coffered ceiling. Cofferings are supposed to sort of hark back to the structural web that crisscross the ceiling, and of course it all becomes decorative. But when you look up here, this vault, which is sort of a saucer or barrel vault, the coffering is just floating in the center of it. So it's sort of suspended, illuminated by cove lights along the end. So it has sort of this mid-century Mannerist take on these traditional architectural elements. It doesn't even meet the sides of the wall. It just sort of hovers and lifts up. It's an amazing effect for such a dark room. You're surrounded by this dark marble, but the ceiling just lifts straight up. And we can enjoy the medallions and then the elaborate elevator doors, also featuring Franklin.
This is a Franklin, of course, his writings,
He was
I think, is
a
what he's
noted
talking
writer and a
about there.
printer. You know, we have a kite with a key on it, so, you know, we discovered electricity. So this really is replete with all of the symbols that we would associate with Franklin. His brilliance and industriousness, of course, then transfer to the company so that the company can then represent those very same ideals that he embodied.
Lieutenant Colonel Carl Weitzel, it's interesting, as we talk to you on this day, it is your last day of your career with the Illinois State Police. It's retirement day.
It is, it is.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you very much.
I knew you from the Armory days.
Yes.
And you and I both had an affection for the Armory.
Oh, yes.
But the Illinois State Police had to move somewhere, didn't they?
We had no choice.
Yeah.
It was falling down around
It
us.
was not habitable anymore.
It was not.
Yeah.
No. It was
And then
unhealthy.
you find out that where are we moving? We're actually moving to probably the finest space in Springfield.
It's an amazing facility, really. It's absolutely incredible. It was built with such great care, such great concern about architectural significance to make sure that as the facilities were added through the years that they matched one another and they matched the neighborhood. There was a great deal of concern and care put into that.
Absolutely. And you get that feeling when you walk through this place. Actually, when you enter one of the offices, we're in the South Tower now, which was added in 1948. but it's quality, isn't it?
Oh, it's of the utmost quality. My father managed commercial property in downtown Chicago for his entire career. And so he taught me a lot about what to look for in a building and as to whether or not it was properly designed or whether it was properly, really put together. And this building, not only was it designed right with quality materials, but it was obvious that the people who took care of it so that it would last forever. And it is an astonishingly good condition. It's been maintained properly, and it's a joy to be in. You walk into it and you feel like you're genuinely somewhere.
One of the things you'd like to take with you, I'll bet, but can't, is your office.
Oh my goodness, yes. I'll never have another office like this ever again. Just this desk, which of course is not, it wasn't originally state property, but became part of it when we assumed the building, is an amazing piece of furniture. I enjoy putting waxes on it so that it's preserved for the next occupant.
Thank you, Carl.
My pleasure, thanks.
Linda Havener, you have an interesting experience because you worked at the Franklin back in the 70s, right?
Yes.
And then you took some time off to raise a family. You went to work for the Illinois State Police, and lo and behold, what happens is you end up back in the Franklin building again, right?
Yes, yes.
What was it like working here then?
In 1976, it was a lot different. The floors were totally open. There were no cubicles, no anything, and you could see each section wherever you worked. I worked in the accounting section to start with, and your boss faced you. You all sat at desks, and basically whatever you needed to do, you needed to get her attention so she could let you do it. And then I moved from there to dividend section. The same exact thing. The boss sat behind us there.
I'm going to show some pictures here while you're talking. Go ahead and keep talking.
Just got her
because
attention.
I just like to see how close together these desks were, too. My goodness.
Yes, you were very close to your coworkers.
And your boss, right?
And your boss, yes.
And I'm going to flip to another one here because this shows you all at your desks, doing what you should be doing, being watched by your boss.
Yes. And they ring a bell. So if we wanted to go to lunch, when it's time to go to lunch, they'd ring a bell. You'd get up and go to lunch. Then when your lunch was over, you made sure you were back at your desk. The bell would ring again. That meant lunch was over. Then at the end of the day, you sat until the bell rang. Then you got up and left.
When you moved over here, you were contractual with the Illinois State Police.
Yes.
You were not in the Armory. You were in another building.
Right.
But what was your reaction when you found out that you were coming back to the Franklin?
I didn't believe it. I kept telling them it was never going to happen, that I wasn't going to ever be back in that building. And then lo and behold, yes, I'll finish my working career in Franklin Life Building.
This is the newest part of the complex. It faces 7th Street, and this is the main entrance to the Illinois State Police headquarters. The purchase of this monumental building allowed the State Police to consolidate its people and to move their District 9 headquarters here. Now, about 700 people call this their workplace. With another Illinois story in Springfield, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send 1995 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.